friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, I'm here for another Monday this and that video, and what that means, especially if you're new, is that this is a weekly vlog that I do to keep you updated on current things going on and to lead you back to some old videos I may have that are instructional and more in depth on some of the things I may be talking about. Let you know of collaborations going on, videos yet to come, and so much more. And especially since most of the videos that you see when they publish, they're at least 3 to 4 weeks old by the from the time they've been shot to the time they publish. So I like having videos like this where I can keep you a little bit more current. For example, tomorrow, my video in the Fermented February collaboration is publishing, and one of the things I did in that video was I showed how to make a dried herb vinegar. Well, this vinegar is almost done. So it probably has about another week left to go tops. So this is what it looks like right now. So when you watch that video tomorrow, this is what it looks like when it's about done. And so I'll be straining that out here. Not too long. You can see it's still kind of fizzy on the top, so it's still working through the sugars. And by the way, I'll be putting the full playlist to Fermented February in the description box down below, along with all the other links I'll be mentioning. And if you're new to YouTube and how it works, simply, if you're on a computer, you'll see a horizontal box just below the video screen. Click anywhere on that horizontal box and it'll open up the full description box so you can see everything that's in there rather than just the few things that are at the top. If you are on a smart device, I think these days, most of it now, instead of a little arrow on this side, it'll simply say the word more. You have to actually touch that word, I believe, to open up your description box. And, you know, it could be different from device to device. I don't know. I rarely use mine for such things. I prefer just using my computer. So another thing, I did this last week. Now, I have dehydrated cabbage before, but just red cabbage. And I powdered it up and actually used it as a food coloring. And it makes a beautiful food coloring. So I still have some in like this red cabbage, but I've never actually used it in cooking. So, you know, to use as is. And I've been meaning to do that for a while. So I got cabbage from Misfits Market on one of my more recent orders, and it was actually a huge one. Sometimes they're small, but this one was big. Here's a picture of it right here. And so I took about 3/4 of it and dehydrated up, and each quarter filled up a pint jar, or almost filled it up. I tried to divide it up evenly. So anyway, my plan is to have the cabbage to use it in something like the next time I make cold cannon. Instead of using fresh cabbage, if I don't have it on hand, I will have some dried cabbage, and that way I can cook the dehydrated potatoes, the cabbage, the onions, garlic, anything I have dehydrated, I can put in there, the broth and so on, and just make my cold cannon out of that if I don't have any fresh ingredients. If I do already have the cabbage on hand, I'll probably use it, but at least that way, if I get a hankering for making cold cannon, I don't have to wait until I have fresh cabbage on hand. And also to use in stir fries, any stir fries where I want to have cabbage added in there. Because I do, when I have cabbage on hand, I do add that to my stir fries. Anyway, if you'd like to see the video on making cold cannon out of dehydrated ingredients, I'll go ahead and put that link in the description box down below. I also explain the difference between my cold cannon and traditional cold cannon. But the thing about cold cannon, you always have someone that wants to get it bent out of shape. Traditionally, it is a very simple meal, and the reason why was because it was a very frugal meal. Potatoes, cabbage, onions, or kale, instead of cabbage if you have kale, and garlic if you want. That was about it. You can add salt and pepper. You can add other vegetables. Meat was a luxury, so it wasn't usually added, if at all. But I do like adding it in there if I have it. So anyway, moving on. Now, I meant to talk about this last week. I had these actually sitting on the counter right back here and totally forgot about them. But one of my followers, Flo, sent me about, I don't know, I haven't counted them, but she sent me a whole bunch of squares here. I think there's 10 squares here that she had made to go in the Rain Country Crazy Quilt collaboration. And I think this does top off the amount of squares I'll need. I still got to go through and count them all to be sure. But thank you, Flo, for that. And thank you, everyone else who has been involved in making and sending me some quilt squares so that eventually, once my knee fully heals up, which is probably going to take a while because it It was a bad injury, but it is healing. But I don't want to run my treadle machine using both legs until that knee is fully healed. But I'll keep you updated on that as it comes along. Now, as I'm talking about collaborations, let me go ahead and mention that I'm going to be closing out the food recipe collaboration this week. So you'll have the rest of this week, I would say until Friday or Saturday, to send me any photos of foods that you've made off of my recipes, and try to get good quality photos. Make sure the background doesn't have a bunch of stuff in it. Try to keep it nice and neat and looking nice, because it's going to look a lot better in the collaboration if you can take a good quality photo and do your best to make it look nice. Then I can start working on that, and then the next collaboration right after that is the medicinal one. So that can be a vapor rub, muscle rub, elderberry syrup, teas, tinctures, extracts, anything that you've made based off of my videos, or even the honey infused garlic with whatever additives you put in there. Like sometimes I'll add cinnamon. I almost always add some hot peppers. And my last batch, I had added black seed and really, really like that. I'm definitely going to do that again. And by the way, you'll send all those photos to raincountryhomestead@gmail.com. If you're sending photos for each collaboration, please make sure you separate them out into separate emails. So if it's for a food recipe, put it in an email titled food recipe collaboration. If it's medicinal collaboration. And if it's for the one coming up after that, which is a dehydrating collaboration, so let's say you did some cabbage, take a picture of that, cheese, eggs, meat, whatever it is you've dehydrated, especially based off my videos, milk, then take some good quality photos and then put that in a separate email titled dehydrating collaboration, raincountryhomestead@gmail.com. So you'll always find my email address, by the way, in the description box below the video. So with the mention of honey infused garlic, I'm going to be getting some more made up. So I've got some honey here, and I've got some, it's actually already fermented garlic. So I had a couple of quart jars in there I kept forgetting about that I want to get used up, and then make another batch. So I do ferment garlic too. It just depends on how I'm going to use it. I like using the fermented garlic. It does keep forever like this. I've had this probably for a year. But I also like to freeze garlic. The one thing about fermenting garlic is it takes away some of the bite of the garlic, which for some things I don't care for as much. I want that good strong garlic flavor. But it is also nice having it fermented for other things. So I'm going to be using up the last of this, making some honey infused garlic. It's already fermented, and I'll probably use some of the liquid out of this as well in there to thin out the honey. And I'm going to be doing the black seed and some spicy hot peppers from my garden, probably some onion as well. But this is what's left from my last batch. It looks really ugly, and the only reason why, it's not because this was the honey infused garlic with the hot peppers and the black seed, but the reason this looks so nasty is because I've been trying to find ways to add more moringa to my diet. Not super duper crazy about the flavor, and I'm trying to get away from having to make capsules as much as possible, because one, it's a hassle. Two, that means I have to buy the capsules too, and I don't want to do that if I can help it. So I've been trying a few different things, and since I had just a little bit of this left, I went ahead and put in a good sized spoonful of the moringa. So that's why it looks kind of a dark green. So between the black seeds turning a darker color anyway, then the moringa turning it green, it looks kind of nasty. But what I found is that actually tastes pretty good. So when I eat the honey infused garlic, some people will pick the garlic out and eat the garlic. That's not how I do it. I take a spoonful and eat it by the spoonful, so I'm getting the honey and whatever other goodies I put in there, like the black seeds, the cinnamon, the cloves, the hot peppers, and so on. This actually wasn't too bad. This is definitely a way I could handle it, because the garlic and the honey just have enough great flavor of their own, and the black seed, that mixing that in there just makes a really great way for me to be able to get the moringa in daily. So that's what I'll be doing today, is making up another batch of that. And let's talk about a couple other things. So back here, a couple of fresh medicinal extracts. So I have recipes on both of these. This one is the antibiotic one. And in that one, I still used mostly nasturtium leaves, but I also added some echinacea leaves and flowers in there. So I'm just getting that going so I can always stay ahead, because it seems like there's always somebody needing an antibiotic, and I actually share it with family more than we use it ourselves. And then this is my pain one. Since I'm kind of going through the pain extract a little bit more because of my leg, especially trying to remember to take it at night before I go to bed because my leg keeps wanting to cramp up. That's the hardest part of the healing process right now. My knee is healing up great, but the rest of my leg during this whole process, especially of trying to, you know, not use it too much, but also use it some to keep it, you know, to keep it moving as it should, causes my leg to want to cramp up. And so if I take some of this before I go to bed, not only does it help ease the pain, it also, because of the valerian leaf I use in there, it also relaxes the muscles, and that way I can get a good night's sleep that way. So I think I mentioned that in the last video. So if you're curious about my recipes, I'll link to both of those in the description box down below. Now the antibiotic one, that video is really old. The way I make it now is I use, in both of these, I actually use mostly homemade wine plus some honey. The raw honey will add, especially to the antibiotic, will add more antibiotic properties to it, but it also makes it taste a lot better, especially when you're talking about the pain one, because my latest blend is actually the best tasting one I have. It's actually tolerable, and the honey is one of those things that makes it tolerable, and the homemade wine, which I prefer by far over vodka. So anyway, I'll link to those videos down below. And then last week, I think I mentioned where getting my seeds from Etsy. I just got in one of the 2 orders I placed for this year. And one of the places I bought from a few times is Ms. Tizzy's. Really like her. She always sends a free pack of seeds. So one of the free pack I got this year was the black oil sunflower seeds. So I'm going to try to grow these. I grow a lemon queen sunflower that does really good, but these are specifically the black oil, which is excellent for your chickens. But the main things I was focusing on was the arnica, because I'm going to try that again. Hopefully it will do well for me. I'm really wanting to grow arnica because it is so expensive. And I did get some more orange calendula seed, just because my orange calendula seed never seems to do well anymore for me. I can only get the pink and yellows to grow and actually get flowers. I don't know why. It used to be my first calendula flowers were all orange. So whatever's going on there, I'm trying again with some fresh orange calendula seeds to see if those will do better. And then I decided, just for the heck of it, to get some St. John's wort, since I was doing an order anyway. I rarely order just one pack of seeds from any one place, because if I'm going to pay shipping, I want to get some extras to go in there. But anyway, she sent me last year a pack for free, was the Black Cherokee Trail of Tears runner beans. I only had 5 seeds, and so I did get them to grow, and I got out of those, I made myself about another at least 30 more seeds. So I'll have plenty to actually grow some this year to use for food. So the first year it was mostly getting them to grow for me and getting enough for seeds for this year, and they'll be more acclimated to our cooler climate. I've heard some people say they haven't had good experience with buying seeds on Etsy. I always have. The people I've dealt with have been great, and they pack their seeds really nicely. Like, I like the way she actually goes that extra mile and makes like a little booklet, and then there's the seeds right there. Now, another thing that's been coming up all of a sudden, all because one person put out a video, a person I'd never even heard of before, and I happened to stumble across the video and figured, and that was when I realized that's why suddenly people are freaking out about castor oil and plastic, is because one person put out a video saying, never buy castor oil in plastic bottles because the plastic will leach into the castor oil. Well, whenever you're talking plastic, that can always be an issue. But for some reason, this was specifically about castor oil. And the thing is actually several months ago, I had been doing some research. I was looking specifically for a good food safe oil, as well as something that would be safe for lubricating plastic, so it wouldn't degrade the plastic. And what I kept coming across time and time again was castor oil. It is a great lubricant for both metals and plastic. And the reason why it's a great one is because it does not degrade plastic. So of all the oils, the castor oil in plastic is going to be your safest one. Because I had like 4 or 5 different people suddenly come in out of the blue, which told me it meant that it was somebody put out some information, one person, and only this one person, as far as any of us can find that did the research, has put that out. So I don't know where she got her information. I'm not trying to badmouth her. She either made an assumption about it, or she heard it from someone else. And I've made this mistake too. We got to be careful whenever we hear information from somebody, and that includes from me as well. A lot of us are giving our opinions, or it's based on something we read somewhere, and maybe we don't even remember where we got the information and how accurate it was. So for example, years ago, I was talking about calendula and talking about all the benefits. I think it might have been in the calendula video itself. And I said, don't eat the leaves because the leaves are toxic, because I had read somewhere when I was looking it up that you shouldn't eat the leaves. Well, come to find out, that one place I got my information from was wrong. The leaves of calendula are edible. So I had to come out and say, you know what? I was wrong. I got the information from this one source. I didn't double check it to make sure it was correct. And since then, I've had several people tell me they eat the calendula leaves, and I have since tried one because it's kind of a nice spicy flavor. So even if it's me, even with all the research I do, I can still get it wrong because maybe the source I used was a bad source. But because of incidents like that, I have learned to double check, to find other sources. Is this really true? And find different ways of wording things in my browser to, because if you put "our calendula leaves toxic," you're going to find somebody that will tell you that. If you put "our calendula leaves edible," you're going to find places that tell you yes, they are. So a lot of it will depend on your specific wording. So change your wording up and then compare your sources when it comes to things like that. And maybe I'm still wrong about the castor oil, but I did look in several different places, and most of them were like industrial uses for castor oil. And by the way, they're working on making plastics from castor oil because it is going to be healthier, safer, biodegradable, and so on. So that would be great if they did that. Just like making, they can make plastic out of hemp, which is a great biodegradable plastic without all the chemicals. They've been able to do that for quite a number of years. I don't know why we're not seeing more of this out there, by the way. Maybe it costs more money. I don't know, but I know that hemp grows very quickly and it's easy to grow. And in the 1940s, our US government was actually encouraging people to grow hemp because of all its many uses, especially for the military, because they use the hemp for bootlaces, ropes for their boats, parachutes, and so much more. So yeah, they were encouraging people to grow hemp for that very reason. And of course, then you got those great nutritious seeds. So anyway, that was a side one right there I hadn't planned on talking about. And then I almost forgot the nut flour. It's actually not a flour yet. So last week I had shown you I was getting started making a batch of Brazil and hazelnut milk, and I used a half and half amount of the nuts. And then what I do with most of the pulp, if I'm not going to use it right away, or I'm not sure if I'm going to use it right away, I dehydrate it. I just dehydrated these right next to my wood stove. It dehydrated up beautifully. It took about a day, and I just rotated the trays. And like this, where it's kind of more grainy, I can use this for breading. It's great if you're cooking something you want to bread, you can use your nut flours on that. I've done that before, whether it be fish or whatever. Or you can, if you want to use it as an actual flour replacement, I've done this with pancakes before. I've used just strictly my homemade nut flour from the pulp from my homemade nut milks to make pancakes out of. And pancakes and muffins are great for that, to use it as a complete flour replacement, and it worked well. You just got to add a little more egg to the batter. And anyway, what I do in that case is I either throw it in the blender or use my coffee grinder that's set aside just for food products, not coffee, and then just powder it up, and then it makes a great flour to use in any kind of quick bread you want. I've done that, and you can even use the pulp fresh to make a quick bread. I did that, I think a year or two ago. I made a Brazil nut applesauce bread and using the pulp fresh. So the very next day, I stuck it in the fridge. The very next day, I took the pulp out and then made a bread out of it, and it turned out great. So you don't have to dehydrate it if you're going to use it right away. But if you don't know if you're going to use it right away, dry it up. Otherwise, it will go bad in a few days. It'll spoil, because yeah, I've had that happen where I forgot about it. Stuck it in the fridge, forgot about it. If you like to make nut milks, vegan or not, doesn't matter. Sometimes I'm not vegan, but sometimes I used to be, and sometimes I still like to have nut milk for various different things. Just realize that it's not a waste if you're putting the pulp to use. Don't throw that stuff out. It's great stuff. There's so much you can do with that. All right, well, that's it for my this and that for the week. So don't forget to go down to the description box, open that up to find all the links I'll be putting down below, and check out that Fermented February collaboration if you're liking to learn more about fermenting from all kinds of different people, because everybody's going to have their own way, their own things that they do, and their own style. And you might learn quite a bit by combining all that information. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.